Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen, cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading, from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and welcome to this bonus episode. I'm so excited because today I get to announce the September Gaze Reading book club pick, which is The Sunflower Boys by Sam Wachman. You could check out the link in the show notes and in the link tree over on Instagram to join the book club through Alstora. Your first book is only $1. So go check that out today. If you are not already following Gaze Reading on Instagram, we are just at Gaze Reading. And I'm currently partnering with Vintage Books to do a really fun giveaway. So go check that out over on Instagram. And also, I just last night was in conversation in person with an author, and I have to just tell you about this book. The book is called Indian Country by Shobha Rao, and it is one of the best books that I've read this year. It is absolutely going to be in my top 10 books of this year, and I'm not seeing it all over the place, and I need to be seeing it all over the place, so I just needed to tell all the people that I know. And that's mostly you. So check out Indian Country by Shobha Rao. Highly recommend. It's a beautiful book. And now please enjoy my conversation with Sam Wachman all about the September Gaze Reading Book Club pick, The Sunflower Boys. Sam Wachman, welcome to Gaze Reading.
Thank you. Very glad to be here.
I'm very glad to have you. This is a super special midsummer, even though we're on a break, bonus episode.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, because we're here to talk about not only your debut, but the newest Gaze Reading Alstora Book Club pick, your book, The Sunflower Boys.
Fantastic.
Do you have a finished copy yet? How gorgeous is this?
25 finished copy. I actually gave away 24, so this is the last one.
The last man standing.
Yeah.
I have made it a rule that for my book club, I'm only allowed to have beautiful covers.
Oh, I love this cover. I feel so lucky that they gave me at Harper so much say.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. They gave me a bunch of different options, and I said, can we go with another option that you didn't give me? And we had a bunch of back and forths about it. I have no idea who the artist is. I really wish that I knew so that I could give them a hug or maybe a lot of money.
They probably received a lot of money.
Probably.
But not from you. But a hug they'd probably take, or a shout out on social media or something.
Yeah.
What was when you said you did a lot of back and forth, what was the sort of inspo for this cover?
There were originally a couple of different proposals from I don't know if it was one artist or a bunch of artists that Harper has. And it came down to one of the options was this cover, but with just one bicycle and with kind of different lighting and different colors and stuff. And my agent was involved, and my mom, who's an art teacher, was involved. And my mom suggested maybe there should be two bicycles because there's two
Yes,
projects. And
it is. This cover would not be the same without a second bicycle.
I agree. Yeah. So does my mom. So my mom.
I love that she's an art teacher and that she had a say in your cover.
Oh, absolutely. No, she's had a say in quite a lot of this.
That is really fun. It's beautiful. And someone pointed out to me that it's giving a European cover, a UK cover, because a lot of UK books have the frame.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea.
Neither did I. And then he pointed that out to me and I was like, oh, now I see that. Anyway, that's my little inside intel for you.
I didn't realize that covers would vary by, I guess it makes sense that they would vary by the country where they're published, but I had no idea. Thank you for enlightening me about the book a little bit. I'm such an outsider to all of this.
So I'm curious about this journey for you. What, you call yourself an outsider. What does that mean?
I feel like an outsider to all of this insofar as it's my debut and I have no MSA or anything. I have a bachelor's in something very unrelated, and
What is your bachelor's degree in?
Public health. I'm not using that ever.
Listen, you never know.
Maybe. I don't know. I was like pre-med and then I stopped hating myself. And so, by the way, we're not giving any more airtime to Ami, but he was also at Brandeis for a year and a half and then stopped being at Brandeis. And I think he was also pre-med for a year and a half. So, yeah,
You're following in the footsteps of your
following in
cousin,
his footsteps.
who
Yeah.
I happened to have a picnic with the
So,
other day.
maybe in 10 years, I'll end up having a picnic with you.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe, probably sooner, if we're being honest.
I hope so. I hope so. Yes.
Okay, so you feel like an outsider.
Yeah, I definitely feel like an outsider to all of this. For example, I didn't have a finished manuscript or even an idea ready when I met my agent. I had written a short story and she reached out to me and she was like, "Do you want an agent?" And I said, "Yeah, thanks." And
We're going to need to cut that because any person who wants to be an author, that is just like, that's fake news.
There's a lot here you're going to need to cut. Yeah. But definitely feeling like I'm learning a lot about the publishing world for the first time. There's a lot that I think people have been spending years, decades rehearsing for that I'm just thinking about now.
Okay, for our listeners, what is the elevator pitch for the Sunflower Boys? And this one can be a longer elevator ride if you want it to be.
Like longer than like a sentence or?
Correct.
Okay. Never been good at these.
Nobody is. It's okay.
It's a coming of age story set in Ukraine following a preteen boy, Artem, before and during the war as he struggles to understand his nascent sexuality and he asks what it means to be a good brother and a good son and a good man. I think that was actually his one sentence.
Yeah, look, a couple commas in there.
Yeah.
Great.
Semicolon, yeah.
Maybe a semicolon. I don't really know how to use a semicolon properly, so
Don't worry.
Probably. Let's just stick one in for the sake of it.
He's good.
It'll make us look smart.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
My poor high school English teacher.
My poor high school English teacher is going to be at the book launch. I don't think a student did not like reading. This is another thing that made me, I think, outsider or whatever to the whole literary world is that I hated reading in high school.
Has that changed for you? Do you like reading now?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Well, not all writers like reading. So, yes.
It's like most of the job. I think that you should ingest a lot more literature than you create.
I think there are people who like creating worlds and who are storytellers and who I just heard someone okay, I don't want to say who I heard say this because that'll give a future episode away.
Okay.
But I just heard somebody say this, that when you're a kid, making up stories out loud is lying, but if you write them down, then it's storytelling. So I imagine there are some people who are like professional liars, and so they put it down on the page rather than enjoy reading.
Yes, I think that is a part of it. I've never been like a pathological liar, but I understand the urge. I get bored easily, I think, and I like to come up with things to say, even if they're not true, just to spice up the conversation. I'm not going to do that with you, don't worry.
And if you did, that's okay too.
Yeah.
When did you start enjoying reading?
I feel like I started enjoying reading probably in college. I had a fantastic professor who's also a writer, Stephen Macaulay, who he started assigning me short stories to read. And I feel like that was the first time that I really enjoyed just the act of reading for the sake of reading itself. He's a creative writing professor, and I didn't have a lot of creative writing related aspirations at the time, but I had also known him since I was 6 because he used to sit and write at like the cafe that my mom used to sit me at while she taught. Like she didn't want to hire a babysitter or whatever, so she would just like, down at a cafe and be like, "Here, take this. Have this strange gay man watch you for a week." And that strange gay man ended up being my professor. Yeah. And so I figured, okay, if he's teaching at my university, I have to take a class with him.
How fun.
And I asked him if he remembered me, and he did not. But then later on, a year later, I reminded him that he used to quiz me on the capitals of different countries. And he remembered. He was like, "You didn't get Liechtenstein. That was the one I stumped you on."
Oh, how funny.
Steve, I was special to you.
Are you known for knowing the capitals of countries?
I think I was that age. I think that I wanted to be known for that.
Is that a thing you can do now still?
I guess you could try. I think I'm probably pretty rusty.
I wouldn't know. This would be that situation where I would say something and you could lie to me and it
Yeah,
would spice up the
makes
conversation because
sense.
I wouldn't know the difference. Okay, so you talk about this book, coming of age story during the war in the Ukraine.
Yes,
It takes place in 2022.
it does.
It is a very prescient novel.
Yeah, I thank you. And that was not entirely intentional. I started writing it in 2019. It was obviously a very different novel at that point. I had my great grandparents, also Ami's great grandparents. I'll say that sentence without that so that you
That's
can.
okay. No, we could talk about Ami as much as we want. It's fine. He can get shout outs.
My great grandparents came from Ukraine, and my grandparents were more connected to it than my parents were, and then more connected to it than I was, as tends to happen when you assimilate to Canada and the US. And in college, I decided to go to Ukraine, or quote unquote go back to Ukraine, return to Ukraine, to under the guise of improving my language skills, because at that point I really only knew how to say grandparent things in Ukrainian. Eat something, you're wasting away, and
How do you say that?
yeah. And actually the real reason was that I wanted to understand my own relationship to the country a bit better, my family's relationship. It's not a simple relationship because we're Jews, and it's a whole complicated history that I wanted to figure out, like, can I belong to this place? Do I feel like I belong to this place, or is this just like a foreign country where people that I'm related to happen to live for a while? And it really turned out to be the former. I definitely fell in love with the place a lot, and also found just a sense of community, belonging, and really fell in love with Ukrainian literature as well.
Was there
And
something that surprised you about that?
there was a lot that surprised me about that. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of things that, uh, how do I put this? Small details that I would notice that would just remind me of my grandparents, and I would think I thought that was just something about my grandparents, but actually it's something that exists in an entire country.
Mm.
A certain spice, a certain food, a certain figure of speech or mannerism or way of holding yourself or way of decorating your house. It all felt very much like home in a sort of a way that maybe I should have expected, but I didn't.
I imagine that if you assumed that it was unique to your grandparents, why would you anticipate going to a country and having the entire country feel that way to
Yeah,
you?
opting is 40 million people who do this.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I ended up teaching English there at a one-room schoolhouse in the middle of nowhere. And at any given point, I had 10-ish kids. The youngest ones were about Yuri's age, and the oldest ones were about Artem's age. And that was really what made me want to start writing about the place, was just that I figured it was a place that really touched me. It was the first place that I'd ever really lived away from my parents as well, which I think definitely played a role in it. But I think that it was just it was originally meant as a love letter from diaspora to homeland, I think. And also at that point, I had a student who confided in me about his own sexuality. And for me, that was also a revelatory moment, because the experience of being 13 and gay in Cambridge, Massachusetts versus in like rural Ukraine couldn't be more different. Ukraine
Yeah.
is getting better on that front, and the environment has changed quite a lot since the war, insofar as I think that Ukrainian politics and Ukrainian society have been pushed a little bit toward Europe. But at that time, it was still very much, even more taboo than it is now, I'd say. Whereas, like, I grew up, I guess I just never considered it sounds very stupid to say, but I'd never considered the possibility of homophobia being like a real life thing. I'd never encountered it. I grew up in a very progressive family. I
Yeah.
knew intellectually that it existed in real life, but I also knew intellectually that like polar bears existed in real life. I just never seen one. Didn't feel
Sure.
real until I encountered it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the impetus for starting to write. But then what
Yeah.
was the journey like from 2019 to finishing the novel? Because you said it started out as one thing, turned into another.
Yeah. It started out as very much a slice of life coming of age story, more atmospheric than propulsive. Like, definitely just wanted to give it an impression of a place and a time and a person rather than have it be as suspenseful as the finished product is, because that suspense was absent from real life at the time. And
Sure.
yeah,
That's really-
yeah. And so it was very different. I read recently Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt, and it reminded me a
Mhm.
lot of what my novel could have been.
Absolutely. Yes.
So,
Former Gaze Reading guest, Sean Hewitt.
oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no way. Okay. Fantastic. Great company. I had around 100 pages of manuscript, half finished, a lot of insert scene here later, do this later, bits that I left in. And then I was studying abroad in Denmark for my last semester of college when tensions started increasing in Ukraine and Eastern Europe in general. And I remember on the night of February 23rd, which was the night before the war, I got a text from a student. He was like nervous about a competition that he was participating in. And we texted for a little while and then said goodnight. And then 9 hours later, he called me and he was like, we're in a basement. There's missiles outside. And he like held his phone to the door and you could hear air raid sirens. And I was like, that's not good. And so that was the moment where I entirely abandoned my book for a year. I think that the act of writing felt both frivolous and just at that point it was anachronistic. I was writing about a country that no longer existed and a place that didn't exist in the same way. Obviously the country continues to exist, but it's been changed at like the DNA level.
Sure. It like immediately turned into historical fiction.
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't feel like I could write that. I'm very American. And I didn't feel like I could write that story. I didn't feel like I wanted to write that story. I spent the year, I flunked the semester in a really spectacular fashion. I like stopped going to class a lot. I went to Berlin where I had one of my best friends lived there and I stayed with her for a while and I volunteered at the Berlin like Hauptbahnhof, like the train station deal. Central Station, and because there were tons of Ukrainians coming in and basically being directed to various displaced persons camps in German cities and needing medical care and such, and they needed people who could speak both English and Ukrainian and also Russian, and there were not many of those people. So I figured I was an EMT in college, so I was able to have some. Yeah, I got my EMT certification in college. I spent most of my college EMT experience like rolling over drunk freshmen, like on sides.
Yeah.
So wounds sustained during combat were a little bit of a different level.
Sure.
We figured it out. And my students they're spread to all the winds. They ended up in Poland and in Romania and in various basements and in other farther west Ukrainian cities that were safer. And so I didn't cross the border at that point, honestly, mostly for my mother's sake, but I was in Poland and Romania a lot, visiting them. And I guess not trying to be like the big American savior or whatever, but trying to I felt like I was a part of this community and a part of this nation in some bizarre way. And that I didn't fully understand, but I definitely still feel like membership. And so I wanted to, I guess, at least like bear witness and experience with the people who I love and care about.
Yeah. And my sort of interpretation of the book was this, not interpretation of the book per se, but of you writing the book was not American savior so much as you using your privilege as an American who has the capacity to write this book and tell this story and shed light on this community of people.
I love it. Thank you.
That was my experience with it because it was it felt like you were doing a service to them.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's been a major point of anxiety for me. To be fair, throughout writing this book, I've run every draft of it past about 10 Ukrainian friends and they've given me the thumbs up, or they have helped me identify things that don't really ring true or whatever. And we've gone back and changed it. So I do feel like it's been proofread by Ukrainians who are way more Ukrainian than I am. And also at the same time, there's all this discourse right now about who should tell which stories. And I want to be like mindful of that. But I think I do see it more as like I think I see it still as like a love letter rather than.
Yeah. And listen, let's like be clear. You are Ukrainian. You were not born in Ukraine.
There we go. Yeah.
Right. So it's
Yeah. And I'm Jewish, which is also some people find it to be a different thing. Some Jewish people find it to be a different thing, even if they were born in Ukraine and all of their grandparents were, or whatever, they might still think of themselves as more Jewish. Some Ukrainians might think of Jews as something separate. It's not everyone. And I think that is a situation that's improving a lot,
Yeah.
especially now that the president of Ukraine, love him or hate him, is Jewish. And I think that is changing a lot, but certainly in my grandparents' time, they were
Yeah.
a separate ethnicity.
Back to your students for a minute.
Yes.
I know that, so you get these text messages, you get these phone calls, and a lot of these humans that you grew to know and love and care about are found in the book in some capacity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What was that experience like, hearing some of their stories?
Yeah. This is very much a love letter to them as well. And I had the desire to convey them to the world. Like, I love them to bits. I've known them now for 6 years, which, like, I think that we've seen each other grow a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that I just wanted to share these amazing people with the rest of the world. It felt unfair that I got all of them to myself. And so this is inspired particularly by 3 or 4 of my students who I haven't taught in years. At this point, they're just younger friends.
Sure.
And also by my friend and her son, who I met at the Berlin Central Station. And I asked them where they were going, and they said Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I said, oh, surprise. And we ended up very close friends. And her son also very much inspired Yuri as a character. And so, yeah, shout out to Maxine. So it was a cathartic exercise as well for me to convey my students' experiences, because they were texting me, calling me pretty constantly, and I was meeting up with them and their families a lot. And I didn't really know where to put all of this. I would hear the most traumatic shit from them, and then go, "Oh, you are 12," and I don't know what to do with that, because it's actually worse that you said that because you're 12, and I want to cry now, but I don't know what to do with that. I don't want to cry in front of you, so I'm gonna just write this down somewhere, and we're gonna save that for later. And at the same time, I wanted the world to know how they were dealing with it, and like their resilience and what they had been through, and how they were still continuing to be these wonderful versions of themselves despite everything. And so 1 year into the war, like literally on the anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of the war, I was volunteering at a camp in Romania, which was like a respite camp for Ukrainian kids. And by some miracle, all 4 of the students who like directly inspired this book all came to that camp from like all over Europe, which was a logistical nightmare and somehow worked out. And I'm so grateful. And we were all sitting around way past all of our bedtimes, having like tea and cookies. And I was mostly listening, and they were like exchanging stories, because they hadn't seen each other in a year either. They were, one of them in Ukraine, one of them was in Moldova. And I said something like, "You guys need to write a book." And one of them said, "You do it, we're busy." And so I took that as a blessing to move forward with this. And I reopened my Google Doc, which had been collecting dust and fermenting. And I was like, yeah, if I really do want to write this book, I have to take a hard left turn here. And I have to incorporate the war somehow. But I still wanted to incorporate Ukraine in its most peaceful form, or peaceful form in which I knew it. Because I wanted also to convey, I think that, like, probably if you Google Ukraine at this point, you go to Google Images, it's just going to be photos of like smoldering ruins of cities a lot. Yeah. And I think that to me, that's part of the tragedy, is that the nation was not known very well to American readerships, to Americans in general. And I went there and I found like a really, truly beautiful place. And I think that now that it's just known for war, I think that's just like very unfair. I don't want to say unfair representation, but I wanted to also show the version of Ukraine that I knew.
Yeah.
So that people could begin to fathom what had been lost. And that would maybe also make people care about getting it back.
And about what these people in general, but what these 2 young people are losing.
Yeah, absolutely.
at the heart of it, for me, it is this story of these brothers.
Yeah, I think so too.
Are you a sibling?
Weirdly, I'm not.
Really? You were an only child?
I am an only child.
Fascinating.
Maybe that's why I was able to write such a like loving sibling relationship, is because I actually don't have any annoying siblings to
No sibling trauma.
Yeah.
I am the oldest of three, and yeah, at the end of the day, for me, it was very much about their relationship. This is gonna sound crazy to you, to my listeners, to anyone who maybe has read the book or will read the book. However, I'm gonna stand my ground and hold to this thought.
Go for it.
It is giving some version of a modern Sound of Music.
I need to process that for a moment. Can you okay, no, hold on. I'm one at one. Can you help me get like halfway there?
So there is joy and love and happiness in a time of like great despair.
Yeah, okay.
And at the end of Sound of Music, are you familiar?
Yeah, I watched it when I was like 10, and that's the last. That's
Okay. The family escapes over the mountains, over the Alps to escape the Nazis. So they they sing Do Re Mi, but then they also are in this war-torn space.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. I see the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You
Thank you
see how I got there?
my memory there, yeah.
Okay. But there is this sort of, there's just this element of joy within a very horrific experience. To someone who might say war, death, bombs, kids, I don't want to read that. What would you say to them?
I do think that the book is about much more than that.
I fully agree with you, but if that's what someone is
What
hearing,
I do think it's a joyful book, even if it's also marred by tragedy. I think that, oh gosh, honestly, I think that if you don't want to read a book about like war and kids and stuff, the probably just
it's not the right book.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess the point is that it is so much more than that. It is not just a book about war.
And I appreciate that came across, because I think that one of the ways that Ukrainians have been dealing with everything that's happened is through dark humor, and also just finding joy in small moments. And obviously it's very difficult to find good things that have come from the war. I will say that the sense of community and the way that communities have been galvanized to help one another and to get to know their neighbors and their neighbors' needs and to really be there for each other is something that I find really admirable. And I think that salvaging something good from the wreckage is something that I wanted to also convey in the book. And also portraying the resilience of people and of kids who do experience war and who do witness war crimes. And it seems like it's something that you can't come back from. And it's true that it's like the direction of your life is probably going to change irreparably, but you continue living, and kids are incredibly resilient, and people are incredibly resilient. And I've seen my kids really they get dug up in the most violent way possible, and it seems like they just left their roots in the soil and they're not going to make it, and then they're planted in new soil and they just continue to grow. So
I love that. This has been, I've talked more details about a book than I typically do, mostly because it's this book club pick and I want people to learn more about it and get excited to read it.
Thank you.
And yeah, I don't want to give anything from the book away, obviously, but so I'm excited for folks to hear what you've just said and then experience it and maybe get some more insight and glimmers into this really beautiful story.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you picking this and spotlighting it and chatting with me. I think that you have made this a truly non-scary experience. This is one of my first times speaking about the book out loud to someone. And I think that writers don't usually become writers because they're good at talking to people. So thank you for making this so unintimidating.
I cannot wait for everyone to read The Sunflower Boys. A, it is out now wherever books are sold, but B, you really should join the Gays Reading Book Club with Alstora. The link is in the show notes, in the bio, all the things. Check it out. Join the club. Be a part of the conversation. Read it as a group. I can't wait for everyone to read it.
Thank you so much, Jason.